Thank you. Greetings to all the fellow speakers. Greetings to all the guests. First of all, my apologies that I was not here on time, but nevertheless, I'm very happy that I'm a part of this ceremony. I've attended some of the earlier editions also of the Digital Transformation Conclave, and I've always found the discussions, the quality of participation to be very high. So I'm very sure that this edition here in Hyderabad will proceed on the same lines. I would like to congratulate Govt Connect and iLounge Media for bringing this edition to Hyderabad. Would also like to thank 𝗖𝗍𝗃𝗃, Trigen, Deloitte, and everyone else for putting it together. All of us, most of us, at least in the room, are involved in promoting technologies amongst government departments, government agencies. Many of us are part of the government. Rest of us are part of the industry who have some solution or the other, which is of relevance to the government. Of course, some very transformative solutions have also been introduced. For example, we know the DPI that our country has introduced is today a matter of pride across the world. No other country, in fact, has something like the Aadhaar, the UPI, and so on. And these are absolutely visionary, very, very transformative kind of initiatives. Some of the other work which has been shared, like 𝗗𝗶𝗴𝗶, CRIS, and what's happening in Telangana police are also equally important and transformative. But the experience by and large, if you look at all the 28 states, the UTs, the hundreds and hundreds of government agencies and departments which are there, after introduction of technology adoption, let us say from early 90s, more than 3 decades, more than 4 decades have gone by. But I would imagine, I would assess that the experience is very mixed. In fact, it is very difficult, in my opinion, to introduce new technologies to the government. But at the same time, it's not a very pessimistic kind of scenario. There have been, as I said, very good initiatives, lots of success stories. And what is now needed in conferences like this is to find out the template. Why is it that in some government agency, in some state, or in some ministry of the government, we have been able to achieve rapid success, but in some other similarly placed agency or context, we are floundering? Why is it that at the same time in our country, we see both the 21st century initiatives and the 19th century initiatives? So I guess this is the time to look at all these issues in totality. As we all know, our Honorable Prime Minister has set a very important goal for the country. The next 25 years, as he calls, leading to 2047, is what he calls Amrit Kal. But what essentially it means behind all this vocabulary is that he wants India to be an advanced country. This is called 𝗖𝗍𝗃𝗃 Bharat. And obviously technology has to play a very important role in this 𝗖𝗍𝗃 Bharat. But we also need to take stock at this point in time. New generation technologies are multiplying. We will be having industry sessions in which we'll understand about applications of AI, ML, cybersecurity, and so on. There's no doubt about it that the pace of technology adoption, the pace of technology development is at its zenith. In the last maybe 1 century, the past 10 years possibly have seen the kind of work which the previous 90 years together have not seen. But at the same time, why is it that we are not able to really bring technology or bring the fruits of technology to every stakeholder, to every agency, to every beneficiary, etc.? I'll share some examples from Telangana. It is not to say that we have been able to, it's a very, not to say that it's a very rosy picture. We have conquered every frontiers of technology, but whatever we have done, there are some very important lessons to learn. So I'll speak now not about any particular technology or any particular case study, any particular success story, but what is the underlying methodology through which we have tried to introduce technology in the government, or GovTech as it is called, and what has worked, what has not worked, how has the journey happened, or how has the journey evolved rather over the last 10 years. In 2014, as all of you would know surely, Telangana became a new state, and one of the reasons why this demand for having a new state came was that Telangana was part of a bigger state called Andhra Pradesh, and the people from this region always had this feeling of relative deprivation, that all the opportunities are getting taken away by people from the coastal part of the state and nothing much is happening here. And eventually in 2014, national government agreed to this demand, this long pending demand, and created this new state of Telangana. I remember when the state had just become a new state, the leadership at that time had conducted a few very important visioning exercises, visioning sessions. I was part of one such session which was called Envision Telangana. Telangana was a new state, so what exactly needs to be done by a new state? And the question which was posed before people who had gathered in that session was that how do we make up for the lost time? For the last 7 years, we were together in a state in which very few opportunities came our way. We could not deliver employment, education, healthcare, livelihoods, and so on and so forth. So how do you make up for that lost time? And I remember lots of domain experts were there in that session. And unanimously, all of them mentioned that technology should be the game changer. Whatever you have missed out, if you really want to fast track it, or if you want to really do it quicker, technology should be the biggest enabler for your state. And I happened to be working at that time also in the tech sector. I was the IT secretary at that time as well. So this was a message which we took very strongly, and we felt that one of the first things which we should do, while technology is there for everyone, but it should play a very important role in our government systems also. All our efficiencies or lack of efficiency that we see, about which people complain in the government, those should be overcome using technology. Hundreds and thousands of stakeholders whom we reach out to, the outreach to the stakeholders should improve using technology. So that is how we conceptualized how in the new state of Telangana, technology will be used. The first thing which we did was, as you know, we counted about 38 government departments, which could be the same number approximately in other states as well. We identified 38 government departments in whom we need to infuse or inject these elements of technology. So what we did was that in our IT department, we constituted a PMU. It still exists. It still functions more or less the same way. There are approximately 20 people in this PMU. So all these 35 or 38 departments were distributed amongst PMU members. So teams of 3-4 members were constituted. And each team was asked to look after 3-4 departments. And we, of course, informed all the departments that this is an exercise that we are carrying out. It will be in your own good. Your efficiencies will go up. Your stakeholder outreach will improve. So what this 3-4 members would do would be to really embed themselves in those departments which were attached to them and try to understand what exactly do they do and what can be done better using technology. And it was made to be a very participatory kind of process. Instead of someone taking a 30,000 feet above the ground kind of a view, these people embedded themselves and tried to understand with the help of the cutting edge level people of that department. Some departments have presence only at the state level, but many of them are also present at the district, at the panchayats, at the villages. So take a very cross-sectional view on what you do, how can technology help you, and then in a very kind of an incremental way, introduce some solutions to them. So I remember in some of the departments, we had done a very quick kind of a survey about the introduction of technology. And we had developed a scale, and we had run that scale in those departments. So the scale started with some very basic questions. Do you use an email? Do you have a website? Do you have some solutions that you use? To more complicated kind of thing. Do you use advanced technologies? Do you have a technology wing in your department? And of course, it will come as a surprise today, but 10 years ago, the data showed that almost in 40% of the departments, key people in that department did not even use email. So normally in our technology jargon, we tell them that we should help people move up on that ladder. But 10 years ago, there was a situation that even the fact that there is a ladder was not known to people. So there's no question of moving them ahead on that ladder. So this is the way we try to approach that, explain to them that, okay, of the 20 things that you do, let us try to convert this digitally. Let us try to bring automation there. And one other good thing which we did was that once we decided that these are the areas where technology needs to be infused, the solutions were typically obtained from the private sector. I know of some other states, etc., where they have created a dedicated agency which will also create the solutions. But in our opinion, the private sector is best suited today to bring those solutions. If you try to create everything in-house, you miss out on some of the talent, the creativity, the agility, the global kind of connections which the private sector in our country today has. So all the solutions that we kind of source are sourced from private sector. Of course, Mr. Murthy spoke about RFP and how do you do that. That's a different discussion altogether. But in whichever way it is done, whatever the limitations are, I would imagine that we are quite successful in Telangana. And I don't have precise numbers, but I can share with you that over the last 10 years, close to 200 plus solutions would have been introduced in different government agencies and government departments. And some of the departments, the level of technology usage is practically 100%. Police, of course, is a stellar example, but there are other examples also. The transport department in Telangana, for example, uses technology for every possible occasion. There are some small departments, but very important departments. So Hyderabad, as many of you would know, is a very important center for the pharmaceutical industry. So there is a department called the DCA, the Drug Control Administration. It's a small department in relative terms, but its importance for the pharma industry is very, very high. And we have been able to bring technology, automate literally every activity, every action which the DCA does. Of course, in some other departments, the level of technology adoption is much lower, but there have been some very good examples as well. So this is one very important learning, that you embed yourself and try to understand from below what exactly is required and what exactly will work. This is very different from a typical approach of people who first create a solution and then they try to ram it down your throat. So I personally feel that that approach does not work. The more participatory you are, the more bottoms up you are, the more chances that that department will accept to introduce any kind of technology. The second very important responsibility is hand holding. See, the reason why technologies are not used uniformly or at a large scale or a large pace is basically a mindset issue. There's a feeling, see, many of the government employees, I'm again not talking about people who are the heads of the institutions, etc. Many of the officers today come from technology background. Most of them are engineers, or they're familiar with technology, they're well-read. But I'm talking about people in general who have to eventually implement all that. Many of them, when they were students, obviously they missed the bus in the sense that they did not go through any formal technology education. Whatever studies they had, missed out on the technology curriculum. And therefore there is a mindset that I did not study engineering, I did not study computer sciences, and therefore all this technology that people speak about, that is beyond me. So mindset can be changed also, but to change that kind of a mindset, you also need to provide them lots of support. And this system that I speak about of having a PMU, of having people who are dedicated to different government agencies, one of the other important role they perform after the identification of areas where technology will be introduced is made, is to actually get this technology implemented through directly providing hand-holding support. These PMU members are attached to that department forever, over a long term, that is. So it is not that I just tell something and I move on and thereafter there is no contact with them. So this hand-holding is very, very important. We also try to monitor what kind of results are coming, because eventually the mindset change also happens if you can show before their eyes that earlier you used to spend this much of time, you used to miss out on this many things. The customer or the stakeholder dissatisfaction levels were so high. all that has changed today because we have a better system of implementing, of monitoring, of targeting work to the right kind of people, and so on. So that how do you monitor that change also is again very important. And again, as I said, we take the responsibility for it, because if you leave it to the user department, it may happen, it may not happen, and at the end of it, no one will be sure at all whether anything really helped them when they are making this transition from a manual system to a technology-driven system. Handholding is, again, as I said, a very important thing. Monitoring is important. Showing results, demonstrating results is important. Another very important issue is funding. Many times, there are, of course, departments who provide budget for technology, but there are some smaller departments. I gave the example of TCA. Possibly, I don't recall now, but possibly when they first approached us or when we first decided to work with them, they had budget issues. So we also, in our department, keep aside some budget for departments and agencies who have shown some keenness or where there is a huge window of opportunity, but lack of budget is coming in the way. So we try to put some money from our side itself just to showcase that if you are able to introduce something, you will improve your efficiency, you will also save money, and therefore whatever money you are saving, possibly you can be invested in scaling up whatever we have suggested for you to do. So as I said, there are different approaches in fast-tracking technology intervention within the government, but this is the right time and the right kind of platform to discuss how collectively we can do it across the states, across ministries, throughout the country, so to say. And of course, individual use cases which have been major success stories, they eventually end up motivating us, showing to us that there are enormous possibilities, creating newer champions, technology champions amongst government officials. But GovTech is really the next big frontier to conquer. We have examples of many, many countries where this, what is now called as Viksit Bharat phase, that phase happened because of technology. So it's not just a concept or a feel-good kind of a notion. There are dozens of examples where small countries, large countries have transformed themselves using technology, and it is time that we also follow the same path and leave our own mark there. So I'm happy to see that throughout the day, lots of government officials will be participating. They'll be speaking about their own examples, their own work that we do. But I would request Deloitte in particular, since you are the knowledge partner for this event, to at the end of it put together some kind of a roadmap on how different agencies, different governments can really progress further in the technology race. Once again, thank you very much for participating in this conclave, and wish you very useful, productive and learning hours for the rest of the day. Thank you.